May I start by saying how delighted I am to see that the Foreign Secretary is actually taking part in this debate on foreign policy. During the election, I turned up to a number of foreign policy debates, one at RUSI, one at Radio 4, and another at Sky, and he was nowhere to be seen. Chatham House and Channel 4 and Newsnight had to cancel their debates because he refused to take part. In fact, I saw the Foreign Secretary having regular debates, indeed wrestling matches on television with my good friend, the Community Secretary, and I have to admit that I felt what can only be described as a pang of jealousy, because I thought to myself, when is Boris going to come and try and wrestle me? But I'm very glad to see that he's involved in the debate today. But I do want to praise the Foreign Secretary, because at least he was the only member of the Cabinet who had the foresight to put absolutely no policies in his section of the Manifesto, so he wasn't in the embarrassing position of having to abandon them later in the Queen's speech. Indeed, in the 2,285 words in the Tory Manifesto devoted to global Britain in an uncertain world, there was only one nation that was actually mentioned by name, and that, of course, is Donald Trump's United States. Russia? Korea, China, not a word. Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, Daesh, or none of them mentioned. And I hope members opposite realise how unprecedented that is. This was the second Tory manifesto since Yom Kippur not even to mention the Middle East. And in the same section of the 2015 Tory manifesto, separate policies were set out on 23 different countries. And now this government is just down to one. And the question, Mr. Speaker, is why? Why is the Tory manifesto and this Tory Queen's speech such a blank space when it comes to foreign policy? And the answer, of course, is clear. Their sole foreign policy ambition is to stay in lockstep with Donald Trump. Whatever hill he chooses to march us up next, but it means that we're left with a government which no longer knows its own mind on foreign policy because they are beholden to a president who keeps changing his. But it doesn't have to be this way. We could have a Foreign Secretary and a Brexit Secretary working night and day to get the best deal for Britain, not fighting like cats and dogs about who's going to be the next leader. We could have a government leading a country to a better, more prosperous future, not a Queen's speech devoid of ideas or hope or vision. We could have a Prime Minister of principle and strength, able to stand tall with European leaders and stand up to Donald Trump, not a hopeless Tory leader just trying to make it through the summer. And with all that in place, we could have a Britain that actually has a foreign policy of its own, a Britain ready once again to be a beacon of strength and security, prosperity and values for every country around the world. And this Queen's speech does nothing to advance that. This government is doing nothing to advance that. They are too weak, they are too shambolic, and they are too divided to take this country forward, and it's about time we got a government that could.